We left Glacier National Park on September 15th and we headed west. First stop, Kalispell. Time to restock. We needed an oil change, we needed propane, laundry needed to get done, and we needed to restock our supplies at Costco. We knew our first stop along the way would be at Kootenai Falls. Kootenai Falls is located in northwestern Montana. It is the largest undammed waterfall in Montana and one of the largest in the U.S. by flow rate. The main fall is just 30 feet high, but there is so much water flow. This area is sacred to the Kootenai tribe and featured in movies like The Revenant and The River Wild. Just a short hike downstream is the swinging bridge, and some of us were braver than others in crossing it. We were a little ahead of schedule, and we found out we had 1,000 trails, Newport, Little Diamond, KOA, and we decided to stop and rest for a few days. The girls were particularly happy to enjoy some time in the very large dog park at the campground. There was even some great hiking at our campground and a cute little pond. Rested up and we were back on the road, headed toward Deschutes National Recreation Area. It is at the junction of the Columbia River and the Deschutes River. And in the park, we could walk to the top of the hill and get great views out around. We enjoyed some relaxation at the campground and then tried to sleep with the hooty owl hooting all night long up in the tree above us. Crater Lake is one of the national parks that has been on our bucket list for years. The park sits at an altitude of over 6,000 feet, so we knew we had to get there early in the fall. Crater Lake is the deepest, bluest, and clearest lake in the nation. The lake is formed within a large caldera which was created by the collapse of Mount Mazama. The lake is almost 2,000 feet deep. And it really is that blue. Pictures do not do it justice. Day 1 was spent driving the scenic loop road and taking in the sights. With the van, we were able to have the girls with us, and they were able to get out at least at the scenic viewpoints. Our goal for day 1 was to hike down to the lake. We took the Cleetwood Cove Trail, 1.1 miles and 700 feet down. We wanted to enjoy the views from lake level, and we wanted the opportunity to dip our toes into the chilly, crystal clear water of the lake. It was definitely a highlight, and glad we did it because the trail is now closed through 2028. We camped that night at Mazama Campground, and we were up early the next morning to drive the loop road to see Phantom Ship, a rock formation that resembles a ghost ship. And we were off to the Crater Lake Lodge, another historic national park lodge with rustic beams and just a cozy atmosphere. This was just a short stop for us and where we parked to hike the Garfield Peak Trail. This trail is almost 3.5 miles with a little over 1,000 feet of elevation. We saw a family of deer along the trail, and then some beautiful views back to the lodge. It was a steady climb, but a really enjoyable one. We even got some views back towards that ghost ship along the way, and some of the best views of Crater Lake were from the top of Garfield Peak. We had one more hike of the day, and that was the Watchman Lookout Trail at about 0.8 miles and to some of the best views of Wizard Island from the top, with a view back towards the fire tower. And just like that, we were done with Crater Lake and on our way to Bend, Oregon. We camped at Bend Sun River Thousand Trails, and we took several days to explore the area. The first stop was at Sparrow Bakery. Our goal was to try the ocean roll. It is a pastry swirled with cardamom and vanilla, and it was absolutely worth the trip. Then we wanted to check out Roughwear. Our dogs have been wearing these harnesses for years, and it was great to go right to the factory. And the girls got to pick out matching hot pink harnesses. Then we went to Tupelo Falls, and the dirt road was rough to get in, and the parking was atrocious. But the falls were beautiful, and John did a great job maneuvering the van out of there. One of our best days in the Bend area was to go to Smith Rock State Park. We hiked the Misery Ridge and Summit Trail Loop, close to 6 miles and 1,700 feet of elevation, and the girls went with us. So I spent some time carrying Sierra. That was a lot of elevation for a little dog. Miss Lily was pretty tough, and she did the whole hike without being carried at all. The hiking here is great, but this place is known as the birthplace of American sport climbing, with thousands of bolted routes. This one is called Monkey Face. Our last day in Bend, we went to Newberry Volcano National Monument and drove up the scenic road to the Lava Butte and to the observation tower, where you can look out across and see the lava fields from the last volcanic eruption. And who can go to Bend, Oregon without stopping at the last Blockbuster and getting just a little bit nostalgic? It was a pretty hot day in Bend. We spent the afternoon relaxing, and we enjoyed watching the surfers at Bend Whitewater Park in downtown. And we were on the road again, heading towards the Columbia River Gorge, staying at the Mount Hood Village. This was actually one of our favorite campgrounds of the whole trip. There were hiking trails right from the campground, and they were dog-friendly. And each day we got to go out and enjoy some great hiking with the girls. Our first day was super rainy, but we decided we would go off and see the Columbia River Gorge anyway. The views were a little obscured by the fog and the clouds. But I have to say, sometimes things are prettier in the rain, and waterfalls might be one of them. And just look how green and lush everything is. And look at the columns that form from the cooling lava. Coral Falls, the first waterfall of the day. By the time we arrived at Bridal Veil Fall, the rain was a little bit heavier, and it was a bit of a hike to Bridal Veil Falls, but it was still beautiful. I think the girls were getting less and less impressed with this hiking in the rain. As you can see in this final picture, they're like, no more for us, please. Sierra pretty much said, that's it. So when we stopped at the next fall, Wakena, the girls stayed snuggled up in the camper, and we hiked it by ourselves. They didn't mind. And the falls are beautiful, and we were getting more and more wet. Pretty much, we were drenched, but we were having a great time. Horsetail Falls was pretty as well. We were pretty much making quick stops, running to the falls, snapping a quick photo, and moving on. No matter how much the girls protested, there was no way we were not getting a group shot at Multnomah Falls. Absolutely the most spectacular one. And if you look close, you can see Sierra shivering. But she did it. We found out there was a Dahlia Festival happening at Swan Island Dahlias. This is one of the biggest dahlia farms in the country, and they had an open house, and it was dog friendly, and we got to go tour fields and fields of the most beautiful dahlias you've ever seen, with views in the background of Mount Hood. One of the highlights of traveling in the van was getting to be spontaneous and taking last-minute trips like this to see dahlias, and to have it be one of the highlights of your entire trip. And we would definitely go back. And we were on the road again, heading to Washington. First stop, Vancouver National Historic Site, a quick tour, and got our National Park passport stamped. And the actors were the best part. And yes, we really did watch sausage being made. Our next Thousand Trails campground was Chehalis, and it was up a big hill, and there wasn't a flat spot in the campground, as you can see by our tire. There were some hiking trails right at our campground, and the trails were loaded with blackberries. also made me wonder if there were bears. We were up before the sun the next day and driving towards Mount Rainier. We were hoping the mountain would be out. And as we drove in and we looked up, the mountain was in clear view, and we were very happy hikers. Our plan was to hike the Skyline Trail, a 5.6-mile loop trail that starts right at the Visitor Center and climbs over 1,700 feet before looping back around and coming back down the mountain. The alpine views were just amazing, and we picked the most perfect day to hike Mount Rainier. And then on the way down, we got to see some wildlife, a yellow-bellied marmot, and a bear. We kept a good distance from this, and just like that, our time at Mount Rainier was over, but we had had an incredible hike, and this was a great end to the second part of our journey before heading to the Pacific coast.